Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at something new. It's a new type of video I want to try and do, which is called a rookie rundown, where I'll spend 5 to 10 minutes just talking about maybe a rookie that we're looking at bringing in. And I want to try and do videos on a lot of the rookies we're thinking about for the bubble to get a bit more insight, have something directed at the player, and a bit of research and maybe help you make a decision as well. And you know, there are guys like Combin and Closey that I know a lot of us are looking at, but I found that this comparison might be better in the second week if you're thinking about picking one of them, when there's a bit more statistics around how they're playing and what position they're playing. And Lohmann, although has been sub, which doesn't help, has played a few games, so that kind of gets us a bit of idea of his statistics and his role. So trying to keep this to 5 to 10 minutes. So looking at Lohmann, he's 161k, so a little bit more of a pricey forward, but you know, could be someone we look at. So first I wanted to look at the draft profile. So for Lohmann, he's a medium forward, you know, obviously it listed strengths as speed, evasion, you know, marking, all good things we want to see. One of the bad things and one of the improvements they had was his accumulation, which is something that, you know, is helpful for a forward, I guess, and scoring, because obviously forwards, if they're not kicking goals, the only other way they can really score points easily is accumulation or tackles, I guess. So that's something that, yeah, it's a bit interesting. I mean, we take these with a grain of salt because obviously there's probably a lot of things. You could probably read the Dacos one. There'd be different things that they say about it. But anyway, going down to the statistics for his year in under 18s, it did look like he had a fairly decent disposal total, 14 disposals. So that's probably all you need from a rookie. Only average 0.6 goals, which isn't great for a forward, but I guess depending on how strong this team was, it could be different. And then his tackles were 3.3, which isn't too bad. So what I thought I'd do is go into past seasons and look for a player who's comparable for what we're looking at. And for Lohmann, it's good because you can go 23 and change it to forwards. I thought that Kay Chandler's a pretty comparable guy. He's probably playing a bit of the same position last year as he was. And, you know, got the price rises we wanted and kind of a similar, probably average we're looking for, because Chandler was quite a good player for a lot of people who had him. And I feel like you know, they play in a team that's similar level, and I feel like this could be interesting. So I thought what I'll do is I'll have a look at, you know, Chandler's draft profile is kind of the same. You know, his disposals were actually quite a bit lower, which is quite interesting. And I mean, his was size and speed for improvements, but it's a bit hard to, I mean, speed maybe, but size, I guess you can get a bit bigger, but like height, yeah, he's a small forward. So they are a little bit different because Lohmann's 185 centimeters, I guess. So that's a little bit different. But I thought I would pull Lohmann's recent game and then pull a game from last year and look at Chandler's half forward flank game. And because a lot of the time they had him as forward pocket, but he was playing up the field a bit. But we'll use the half forward flank game as comparison with the heat maps. And when we look at it, it's actually very similar. So this is Chandler's. You can see he was a lot on the right forward line. In this game, came down to the back line a little bit, but mostly stuck around this higher forward flank. And Lohmann, although he did, you know, switch sides, it was quite similar. Like the red dots are, you know, right in the same area, which is very interesting. I think kind of shows that the role was pretty similar. Like you look at where most of their balls got, and it's pretty much the same. Lohmann, obviously, I mean, Kangaroos is probably a better matchup than what Chandler had. I can't remember who he played. Who did Chandler play? He played in this game Carlton, who are well, they were quite a bit more competitive last year than North Melbourne. But yeah, so Lohmann obviously has the disposals, which is pretty interesting over Chandler, but as you can see, like the role is quite similar, and we were pretty happy with Chandler's scoring last year and his money generation, cash generation. As you can see, you know, he did end up as, thank you for automatically changing that. He did end up at 397k, which means that, you know, Lohmann potentially 230k from here, considering the same role. Now, as we go through, I thought then it would be good to then compare Lohmann and Chandler together. Now, it's a bit hard for Lohmann. I think it's a bit because of the sub, him playing a sub, whereas Chandler didn't play sub. But if we go down and look at this, it is actually quite similar. So 6 kicks average, 6.6, handballs 5.3, 1.5, the disposals. So Chandler didn't actually get much of the ball, but he did kick, you know, a goal a game, which really helped his score. And even then, even though Lohmann has been a rookie, a sub, he still kicked 0.8 a game, which is quite decent. 7.5 disposals a game. So he does get a bit of the ball when he gets on. The marks aren't too bad. You know, if we take into account tackles only 1 compared to 2.6, but I think he had like 6 on the weekend, so shows he can tackle. Frees 4 about the same, and against contested possessions. So a lot of these things are going to start to go up because if you look on time on ground, it was 43.5 compared to 72.5, and that's where you get a big difference here. But it does show there's a little bit of upside in maybe his disposal count compared to Chandler. And that he probably plays a bit of a higher half forward role than Chandler does. Clangers, so he does burn the ball a little bit more by the looks. But everything is quite similar, and the role is quite similar. It looks like he got a centre clearance actually, but it's more stoppage clearances for Chandler. Score involvement. So once we see this time on ground go up a bit for Lohmann with another, you know, hopefully another full game, you might see these stats actually come together a bit more. Even you know, he might actually get a bit further ahead. And looking at weight is actually very interesting to see that Chandler's 79 kilos listed here and Lohmann's 77, even though he gives up 10 centimeters. So that kind of tells you that Lohmann is pretty agile. And I think we forget that Lohmann was actually quite a popular rookie pick last year. He just injured his ankle, which wasn't the greatest thing ever for him. But you know, quite an interesting comparison when we look at it from, you know, at this level. Obviously hard because Lohmann has played sub games, whereas Chandler didn't. But it does show there's a bit of upside in these numbers. Now, the next thing I kind of was looking at is like his VFL stats in his position. So this was the first game where he played pretty badly. I think, was that Jake Lohmann? Where's Kai? Kai Lohmann. Yeah, so Kai, only had 4 disposals, which is interesting. I don't know whether maybe he had an injury problem or something, but he kind of didn't really get around the ball that much. And he was weirdly named as a back pocket, which is really interesting because he's more of a forward. So then looking at the second game, and probably the game that got him in, he kicked 4 goals in the second game, playing against the Collingwood team where they won in a close game, and the disposal numbers went up. He had 7 tackles as well, which is what we're saying, like the tackles are quite good. And also the lineup, though, was still showing him as a fullback. So I don't know if this is just random and they just play them wherever, or just put them wherever and they actually play them in different positions. But he kicked a few goals in this, so obviously, and if he does play backline, does that mean he could go behind the ball a little bit? I'm not sure. I doubt it because I think Brisbane's defense is pretty good. But if they get some injuries, you never know if he could get put back there. And that comes to, I guess, the major concern with Lohmann, because I think if it wasn't for this, we'd probably pick him, is his job security. So first I went to the injury list, and it's interestingly enough, Brisbane don't actually have many forward injuries. Like if you look here, Ashcroft midfield, Coleman, he's not coming back anyway, but backline, Duday, backline. I think Carter Michael's a defender, Connor McKenna also a defender. So the problem I can see is that they move whoever's playing in McKenna's position, which I think is Zorko. They move Zorko from the back flank to then the forward line, which could push him back to a sub, which we wouldn't like to see. But at the same time, I guess you could just have Lohmann on the bench in that case, because it looks like, even looking at their list, Brisbane's list, they don't actually have many forwards outside the like smaller forwards outside the ones that are playing. So if we look for forwards, Danaher, key, McCarthy already playing, Morris is a key, Lloyd's a key, Cameron's already playing, Ryan's a key, Darcy Gardner is a key who plays backline, Fort's a ruck who's listed as a key, and then I think the only other one that I think that might be listed wrong is Bailey. Well, not listed wrong, but he's also a forward. So I think that's quite interesting. I'm not really sure about whether these are specifically correct. I mean, Zorka, I guess, is a small forward as well. So I guess they just kind of listing them where they currently play. And this has gone over a little bit of time. But anyway, the last thing I wanted to look at with Lohmann is so job security is all right. The injury list is short for Brisbane, so it feels like he's already, considered around about their best 22, maybe the sub. Hopefully he can continue to play well, and I think it's going to be hard for them to drop him because he does fit a role that it seems like they don't have a huge amount of players playing. Like they could like Zorko where he is, and McKenna could just not get in the team because McKenna's all right, but I think he can be quite wasteful anyway. And they might rather Lohmann presenting and a bit more pressure around the ball on the forward line. So, and Zorko's looks good off the back line. So it just seems a bit weird if they would change that. But I guess they haven't been winning. So, well, except for last week against Brisbane North. Now, the last thing I wanted to look at was, so his break even, which is -14. So that's good. 34 is getting him 21K. If he can get like a 50 or 60, that's going to be near on 40K straight away. He's also kind of a pod rookie because he's only in 1% of teams. So if he does start to go well, Brisbane are a good team. So if he can get onto a few goals and, get something going, he could be really, really good. Strength of schedule is probably the worst thing for Lohmann outside of job security. So he's got Melbourne, Geelong, and GWS coming up. And Melbourne are actually the number one ranked against forwards. So, yeah, a bit of a hard start. And we know they've got a good defense. Howes would probably go to like Cameron or something. Howes has been playing lockdown, which has affected his scoring. But, Melbourne have a good backline. So, I guess from there, your decision goes, should you pick Lohmann? I actually really like Lohmann. If it wasn't for the fact that we've got Comben there, I kind of would like to have him. And I'm kind of, if I wasn't trying to fix up the defense a little bit, I'd probably look at Lohmann. I don't think he'd be the worst choice. And I think he could be that like Cade Chandler who no one picks or not many of the competition picks. And he ends up being a really good forward. The pros are that, the stats show that he can score well. His time on ground's been low. And he's still scoring really well. He's in one of the teams that you think are going to push for like a top 8, top 4. So scoring's going to be good for him. Looking at him compared to a comparable player from the previous season in Chandler, he has scored quite well. His stats are quite similar, especially with the low time on ground. And there's only really two big cons. One of them's probably less than the other. So the first one is the fact that the worst one, I would probably say, is the job security because we're just not sure if he's going to be able to cement the spot. But again, this is what could keep people away from him and then allow you to have a nice pod rookie that no one has. Secondly, the strength of schedule, like this is a hard run. Melbourne at the MCG, Geelong at the Gabba actually, so it's not GMS, the HMBA, sorry. So that's actually not as bad. And then GWS, who are another strong side. And then lastly, probably the last thing is the fact that, what was the last thing? Oh, I guess it's just the sub risk. Yeah. So, the last thing is the price. The price is elevated. That's what it is. Anyway, that went longer than I wanted, but I guess there was a little bit of intro at the start, just explaining what this is. So that's the first rookie rundown. If you want to see more, give us a sub. I'm going to be doing these more on other players, just a little bit of a deep dive into them, give you a little bit more information, some comparable stuff, and the pros and cons to try and help you see if you can pick these guys. So If you enjoyed it, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll hopefully see you at the next one. Cheers.